Amici di Rock and Roll, ben ritrovati. Oggi siamo in live sul mio canale Twitch, però su una location completamente diversa. Infatti, per la prima volta mi ospitano gli amici dell'Headbangers Pub di Milano, una nuova realtà, un pub a tema metal, come avrete capito anche dalle grafiche che abbiamo qui alle mie spalle, un pub creato da alcuni amici che sono dentro la musica da tantissimo tempo. Poi magari dedicheremo forse una live totalmente a loro. Oggi riapriamo il format Il buongiorno si vede dal martirio, che se seguite il canale avete capito essere un format che tratta il mondo abbiamo qualche problema di stream, è normale. Allora, che cosa faremo oggi? Andremo a raccontare black metal. Allora, black metal in questa meravigliosa Collector's Edition è una graphic novel pubblicata in Italia da Diabolo Edizione, che arriva appunto con diversi volumi e un racconto molto molto interessante, con discreto ritardo rispetto agli Stati Uniti d'America. Però noi abbiamo oggi la fortuna di parlare con colui che l'ha disegnata, ovvero straight from Los Angeles we have Mr. Chuck Beebe. Hi Chuck.
Hello, hails to you. How are you doing?
Super good, super good. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us on this live event from at Bangers Pub in Milan. First of all, I really loved black metal. I know it's kind of an old school project for you, but what do you remember of those years when you decide to create with Rick this amazing project?
Well, a few years before, quite a few years before, I got just started getting really, really into black metal. And I'd always been an artist working on, I was already published. I think I'd done Secret Skull with Steve Niles. But I really wanted to do something that, really personally meant something to me. And I just kind of said, let me just try to do something with black metal. So I started doing little doodles, illustrations of these black metal characters, and I kind of wanted it to be a little fun, but still like grim and extreme in some ways. And so I was introduced to Rick Spears, and I kind of showed him some of these early sketches, and he had done like Teenagers from Mars, and kind of had that like punk edge, and understood that what that really meant. And so he got excited about it, and basically we just started going back and forth. It was a lot of fun, though. I mean, it was really good for me to do something that meant something more to me. And I didn't see a lot of like heavy metal in comics at all at the time, really, here and there sporadically. But for the most time, it was a no metal zone. But I know a lot of metalheads read comics, so
A lot, a lot. I can guarantee to you. I've just been to Lucca Comics. I don't know if you know about this big fair that we got in Italy. And in terms of numbers, it's just it's a little bit. I gotta say that a little bit more than San Diego Comic Con. So it's a pretty huge place, and
oh
it's
wow,
totally filled up with metal ads all around, because
wow,
comics and rock music in general, but metal specifically, has a long time relationship. But as you said, black metal has never been really on the front page of comic books. So you started this project. We already say that in Italian, way back in 2007. So that's when actually black metal first rises from the ashes of your thoughts, and Rick Spears, that it's actually the author with you of this graphic novel. How did you decide the style of this graphic novel? Because if we think about black metal albums, talking about graphic design and stuff like that, my personal idea as a comic reader would be more like less cartoonist and more realistic in a way.
hmm
But you decided to have this kind of Scott Pilgrim black metal version.
we should have called it Scott Pilgrim. You know, grim and frostbitten.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I've always loved animation design. I mean, I can do artwork that looks more realistic or more violent or grittier, and I think you see a lot of like. I don't think that the black metal comic book looks like a lot of black metal album covers, specifically. Of course, obviously you can see the stuff that I've like drawn from there. But I love animation design. I think there's something more freeing about it. And also I wanted something that people who don't listen to metal could also sort of relate to. And I would love to bring more in, attract them and suck them in. So I
Talking
think that
about
was a big
the
piece.
idea. Yes, totally. And talking about the subject of this graphic novel, I love the fact that start really like as a the typical high school situation with the little outsiders and the underdogs that are these two brothers, Sean and Sam Strongan. And I gotta say that I grew up in the city of Milan, born and raised here, and I used to attend to a Catholic school. So when I saw the very first pages of volume one of Black Metal, I said, well, those guys were pretty lucky because they were surrounded by punk rockers, people with suicidal tendencies, black flag T-shirts. So that's very California, and in a way, it's way different from what we have here in Italy. But again, talking about the subject, it starts really urban with this situation, and then it goes to a completely different multiverse we should call right now, talking about what's going on in the Marvel MCU. One of the goal was trying to create the connection in between the word of actually metal listeners and what was actually the subject of some black metal albums.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? I might have not understood the
No,
question.
I was saying one of the goal probably was trying to translate a very urban situation with typical metal listeners to the subject of actual the album of black metal bands. So something that belongs to hell, heaven, Satan, and stuff like that. So you
Gotcha.
start from a urban situation, and then you go right inside what's the this main subject of the album that everybody loves.
Yeah. I think one of the things. So I think the fish out of water story. So where they're the outsiders in the school and stuff like that. I think that is helpful to draw people in because they can kind of relate to it. I've had metalhead people that look like they don't want to talk to you at all, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I read this. That's exactly how it was for when I was a kid," basically. So I've had a lot of those reactions. So I think that that's true, but it also is, I think, more attractive to people who don't follow metal because they can sort of see the rest of the world. But I knew that we really wanted to go to hell, like I wanted to go into hell, open up all the deities, and with black metal, there's beyond Satan, you also have like Norse mythology and all of this sort of stuff, and now like everything, right? Just anything kind of warring and cool and creepy or frightening or evil. So like, or big and epic. So I wanted to get there, and I think Rick and I talked a lot about that, and we both wanted to get to that place as soon as possible. And the nice thing about that for me as an artist is when we're in the hellscape, I don't have to draw a lot of buildings or cars.
I got you. But at the same time, what I loved about this graphic novel is the fact that everything is really, like you said, it's connected to the word of Satan, hell, heaven, and stuff like that. But it's very easy all to get also for people that have no idea about black metal. So the second goal of this graphic novel was also maybe bringing the black metal feeling to a wider audience.
I mean, I don't think that I looked at it from like a commercial standpoint. I don't really think that way. I really wanted to do something that was what I was interested in. But I think that that's kind of what happened. That's kind of what I did. I certainly didn't want to stray away from using Satan and stuff that many people can be offended by, especially like, what's that, 12 years ago. I remember being at like comic conventions, have my table set up, and I'd have some artwork with like an inverted cross or whatever, and a couple people would walk by, like, you know, do the whole thing, and I kind of like that reaction. Of course, that's kind of what we all like about that kind of, you know, in your face, anti-establishment kind of music. So I never wanted to like commercialize it or bring it to a wider audience. I just wanted to do what I do with metal, and I think that's just kind of the nature of it, maybe more than anything.
But did you expected this kind of success for this graphic novel? Because you won an Eisner with them.
Oh, right.
So
Yes.
I mean that's a hell of a prize.
Yeah. No, I didn't expect any of that. I mean, I think we had initially like had it at a different company the first time when we were trying to publish it, and I was shocked that they were kind of into it. But it might have been kind of the right time too. There wasn't, like I said, there wasn't something that looked like that out there. But yeah, it's a trip. No, I never in a million years did I expect to win an Eisner from that. It's crazy. Obviously when I got the award, I didn't know what to say. You know, I had just sort of gotten into comics as well, so it's very bizarre for me to be up on a stage in front of like all these like greats. Very odd experience, but really cool. And yeah, like I think it also, when that comic first came out, it was like MySpace was still around. I don't know if
Wow.
MySpace was popular over there, but
Yeah.
we got an ad like on the front page of MySpace for like a day. And that was just crazy. Just crazy amounts of people saw it as a result of that. I think we put up like 20 pages for free to read. So that really like boosted it up. Yeah, and it's been wild. It's been wild ever since.
Because everybody in Italy now are freaking out for Hawkeye season on Disney Plus, and Hawkeye won an Eisner a few years ago. I mean, that was another very good example of graphic novel. But we're talking about Marvel Comics, and they're like the superheroes of comic books, and you know that because you also work with them. It's funny at the same time, but it's great on the other hand that something creepier like black metal had that kind of success. How can you deal with your colleague now, especially that you've been working with, everyone? I saw that you work with Marvel Comics, Image Comics, and a lot of different publishers that are worldwide known. How do you deal with, hey, I am the guy that bring black metal to the masses? And you keep
I mean,
dealing
it's
with Spider-Man and Hawkeye, so I am the man.
yeah. I would love to do some more black metal Marvel characters. You know, give them some metal edge. But I think I've lost my train of thought. But I'm so sorry. I've absolutely
No.
lost my train of thought. Can you go back, give me a little more of that question?
Yes,
And I apologize, by the way.
the fact was like it isn't strange in a world like this that everybody associate the world of comics to the Marvel, DC, and
Yes.
all those great things. uh Being actually winning the first Eisner through something that it's more underground and
Mhm.
that it's truly inspired by black metal. Because one of the best thing about this comic book is that everybody can relate with the fact that you are totally inside black metal. It's not just an idea, it's not just a graphic atmosphere.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that I really that I wanted to do, and I think like Rick was very much in line with, was I wanted it to be a, like, this is not a cool thing to say, a love letter to metal in general, right? Starting with black metal. And for me personally, like I was into metal when I was very young. Then I got out of it, went through this whole punk phase, and black metal kind of hooked me. That's when I found that. it really opened everything up for me. And all of a sudden I'm going back and listening to like stuff that I had never heard of and new genres, and sort of exploring metal through black metal instead of like starting with, you know, Sabbath and moving up. So it's just very important to me, and I wanted it to. So I think probably what maybe got attention was that actually you could feel that in that comic, that I knew what I was talking about. I knew what I was doing. I believed in it, and I loved this shit. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Um,
No problem. No, but I felt that. I felt that. That's a very good thing. And one thing that I discover is that at home I got the CBGB's comic book as
oh
well.
yeah,
I bought it years ago. So I'm basically a punk rocker that also loves extreme metal. So I feel that it's very difficult to bring out the real essence of something that you like into a different art form. You were
yeah,
telling me before our live stream that you also are coming out with an album by your own, and that's a very good thing. You got the vinyl by yourself, right?
yeah. It's a project called Nosk Of The Void. So I just put it out earlier this year, just all myself. It's a one-man black metal thing, so it's just me. I had to learn how to do all this stuff. I'd never made any music before, but it's a concept album about this video game Hollow Knight, which is a very difficult game, very beautiful, but also kind of underground a little bit, you know, becoming more popular. For some reason, I was driving to work. I was working at Warner Brothers. I was working on Teen Titans Go, this cartoon series. And every
Yep.
day I would drive there, I was thinking about this record. I would record stuff in the morning. I would play it, you know, when I was driving to work, and sort of just trying to figure out how to do it. And I'm very happy with the results. And yeah, I'm hoping that I am making more music too. So I found like another place to sort of dig into artistically.
I feel you. I feel you because when I was talking to other comic book writers, especially after the lockdown, everybody come up to me saying, "Well, for us, it didn't change that much. I mean, we got used to stay home and work like daily 10 or 12 hours by ourselves, not going out and stuff. So the real deal for them was actually trying to find something else to do. So you decided to record an album by yourself, and like every best black metal project, you record it by yourself. Was it because of the lockdown, or was something that you pre-thought?
You know, it was pre-lockdown. It was something I started maybe like the year before, so 2019, I think, or 2018. I don't remember. I started, and that was more of like, so I was already planning on doing it. I didn't know how far it would go at that time, but I had to figure out like how to use software, how to play guitar better, you know, how to make it sound the way I wanted it to sound, how to play, how to figure, like, I didn't understand drums at all. I'm learning. I think the drums are serviceable on the album, but I would like them to be better. Um, but I did realize that like screwing around in there, just doing it, resulted in something. So it was another creative outlet. And it's weird because I've always, and I knew I could sing, so that was the only helpful thing. But you know, with artwork, like line art, like the stuff that I did for black metal, or all my other stuff, but especially with like black metal, it is like you were saying before, it's hard to translate music into art, and it's something like I still deal with because I do a comic for the magazine Decibel called Stone Cold Lazy. I've been doing that for 15 years. It's also a metal comic, like strip, in each issue, and it's a tough thing to write about music. I think I have a much better understanding of that process now that I've done it. But I guess I want to be a creative person. I want to make art in any form, you know?
We mentioned the CBGB comic book, that
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's very important if we consider the whole history of the club. Do you think there's a genre in rock music that maybe could deal a little bit better than others? into the world of comic books? Because I've seen mostly at all. I mean, I've just read a comic book about Woody Guthrie. So
Hmm.
I guess that now, with the huge success of, the superhero world, everybody wants to also have the comic version of themselves. I'm not talking about like Nick Cave, or even Johnny Cash. Comic books came out in the last 10 years. So, do
Yeah,
you think there's a specific genre that fits better in the world of comic, now that you experience some of them?
that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think that I chose black metal one because I love it, but because it has like a visual component, right? You have corpse paint, you have all of this stuff that you can draw from album art cover to lyrical content. So I think metal in general is pretty good because it deals with a lot of like fantasy or epics, a lot of times sort of even right taking from Lord of the Rings or something like that. So, uh, but let's see, genre outside of it. I have no idea. What are some of the genres we could be looking at here? Uh, I bet like a synth wave would be interesting because it also is something that has like a very moody aspect to it, right? Like I think of the movie Drive, or something like that. So I think that would work very well. Um, it's hard though without the music component, but I think that has a sort of feeling to it. So any music that has something that makes you feel something, and if you can tap into that, I think that can be illustrated. But I think I mean, at this point, yeah, I think that what you were talking about before, where all the bands or there's like Johnny Cash things and Tori Amos comics and all that stuff, it probably also speaks to like comics being realized as more of like a medium. Like in the US, was mostly the MCU Marvel stuff, stupid comics, superheroes flying around, dumb stuff for kids, right? But we all know that there's a lot more to that than that. And I think like you look in Japan and maybe in other parts of Europe too, I don't know, where comics are taken more seriously and people are able to see them as an art form, because I don't think Americans have a strong respect for what it takes to create art. But they are learning. And I think the more they understand what all it is, maybe, and with the success that these things have, it sort of raises them as an important piece. But I'm sure everybody in comics is still being paid very poorly.
Well, I tried to meet Frank Miller last month in Lucca, but it wasn't easy. I think that he's got quite big money for all the stuff that he did in his life. So I think he made it as a comic book writer.
He did.
But but at the same time, not fucking up with the silly things. I mean, he's probably one with Neil Gaiman, probably one of the few names that actually bring comic books to a higher level. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's good. Also, in my opinion, it's good to enter the world of comic books, even throughout like my nephews. They totally love Teen Titans, obviously.
Yeah,
But it's like an open gate. I mean, you enter from that, and probably then you join Frank Miller, and then you go to more underground artists and stuff like that.
sure.
How was it for you? How did you get into the world of comic books? We're almost the same age.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I started as a kid. I think I was kind of always interested in that hero kind of thing. I loved He-Man when I was a youngster, and then when I got a little older, uh, I was taking like piano lessons, and there was a comic shop next door, and I hated the piano lessons. This is not for me. Uh, so as like a bribe, my mother would take me to the comic store, and at the time it was like $2 would get you like you know two new comics or like a bunch of comics, old comics. So I would just get that stuff, devour it. I didn't read it as much as I just looked at it, but it was like Wolverine. It was all those like classic things. So absolutely, it is a gateway. And then it's kind of like once you learn who you are as a person more as you get older, maybe you find comics that maybe seek that you could seek out those kinds of comics. But yeah, for me it was like that. After the Image boom, I bought every comic that came out. Like the first year Image came out, Spawn, all that stuff. And then I went into like high school. I got into like music, punk rock, and like going to shows, and I did zines. and I kind of just put comics aside. Still, I would go see the Spider-Man movie when it came out, but I didn't read it. Then I met a friend when I was like 18 who was like, here's Sin City, here's Preacher, here's all this Dark Horse stuff. And then it was just like, I just devoured all of it, just it blew me away. I mean, emotionally, very impressive medium. And I had been barely drawing really in high school. So then I started seeing comics as maybe a thing that I could do. And so I started making little zines of comics and going to like small conventions and just throwing them out until I kind of caught some fish.
It's there's another aspect I would like to underline before saying goodbye. When we translate music and subcultures, especially into different medias, there's always a clash in between the true fans. There's always, for example, talking about punk hardcore, there's always the punk police coming to you saying, "Well, we should not translate Black Flag. You should not translate Minor Threat. That's our thing." And so maybe with the world of metal, it's a little bit different because the main subject of most of the records, I'm not talking only about black metal, but even like epic metal, power metal, and even big names in metal have that kind of geek feeling on some kind of subject and arguments. So by moving from black metal to, for example, once again, the CBGB comic books, did you discover this kind of difference? Like there were more hardcore fans of punk rock saying you should not translate Ramones into a comic book, or you were incorrect on that didn't happen that way?
I actually I was very concerned about black metal when we first came out, that there might be like that negative reaction, and maybe there are some people who have like a negative reaction, like this isn't brutal enough looking, or whatever. I mean, I was that punk kid, in high school, where it's like these bands sell out, they suck, like all this gatekeeping. I think it still exists. I'm older now, so I'm not in a scene so much, but I still think, black metal's got problems. Absolutely, there are problem areas within black metal. There is a lot of gatekeeping. Um, so I was concerned about that, and I still think that's kind of a concern. Um, but I think, if you're honest with what you're trying to do or whatever, it seemed to work out. It seemed like the right people saw it. Like if you do something you actually care about, put it out there in some format, and there's other people like you or that like the stuff that you like, and maybe that'll help. They will find that kind of thing, and so that kind of is what happened. So I don't know, with punk, I wonder. I don't know if it's still the same way as it was when I was younger. Like if people are still very protective about. I hope the teenagers are still saying, screw those guys, they're sellouts. Because if not, then it's not like the same. But it's a thing, yeah.
Okay, very last question. Black metal. This is the collector box set that Diabolo Edizioni just came out with in Italy. It's amazing. It's beautiful, and there's a special discount if you go check the YouTube description. So just go there and buy it because it's beautiful. Can we expect some continuous work on this kind
Mm.
of level? Like we're gonna have a black metal second verse, we're gonna have a death metal graphic novel, we're gonna have something like that, or you too much concentrated on different jobs and different words at the moment?
I will never say never. We don't have anything planned right now, and we haven't since then. I mean, we did this. I think the story, it ends with that third book, pretty good. We're certainly in a place where we could do more. Um, but I don't know if we'll do more black metal. We'll see. I'll still be making real black metal.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing that kind of stuff, and I still intend on tapping into my interests in metal and stuff for future projects. So I won't say never. It will be a lot of fun to go back and draw those characters after all these years. I think I would do a lot of things differently. So I don't know. Next time we'll get Rick on the horn and on the phone and make it happen. We'll see. if the
What
demand is
if
there.
someone will come up to you saying, "Can I use some of your drawing for that graphic novel for my record?" How it would be for you? I mean, have you? How many times did it happen to you to actually taking care of artworks for bands connected to some of your novels?
Interesting. I did like a few things. I've seen tattoos pop up, stuff like that. I don't think we've got anything on an album cover that I know of, but there's so much stuff coming out. It's possible that somebody used it and we didn't see. I personally would be, that would be great. I would love that. I have no issues with that. I totally use it all. I'm sure publishers, maybe they have a different thought about that, but for who cares? For music, use it. I don't care. Just don't sue me.
Okay, okay. Chuck, it's been a huge pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for black metal. I totally love that, and Italian fans will totally love them too. Uh, Take care for all the upcoming job that you have. Say hi to Rick next time you're gonna talk to him. Amazing job also from his side. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. And yeah, let me send you a record, huh?
I'd love to. I'd love to. I love it.
Might I
It's
plug it a
already
little?
out, and
Oh,
sorry.
yeah. Oh, I said, might I plug it a little? If anybody feels like going to my Bandcamp, it's noskofthevoid.bandcamp.com. I could certainly use the support. Look at that. Whee! But yes, I'll send you the
Wow.
record, of course.
Yes, I'm gonna put it down in the description of the YouTube version of our conversation. Thank you so much, Chuck. It's been a pleasure. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.